Hey, everybody. Obviously, as Brendan mentioned, one of the things and that's really, really important when we are working with a lot of these AI tools is, we can use them as just chatbot companions and we can tell them to teach us something. But the way, when you're trying to learn a new subject or you're trying to learn something, there's a lot of things that go into it, right? It's not just getting the answer out of that, but it's also a lot of, the process that you follow. There's the Socratic method and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of pedagogy that goes into how you teach and how you learn something. And we usually don't do a lot of that during Element. Like we don't focus on the teaching and learning part, but we're focusing on this part today because ChatGPT and Gemini both have two really cool tools that they have introduced. One of them is called Study Mode from ChatGPT, and the other one's Guided Learning. That essentially, rather than giving you answers, they kind of take you through this journey. And I thought that this is really interesting to show. It's not just for being in school and teaching and learning, but it's also for learning new materials and new things as you're working, right? So if you want to learn something, you don't just get the answers. You want to learn, or you can kind of teach your staff, and you can kind of get your staff to learn new things. So we're going to focus on that today, and we're going to basically think about like what are these AI tutors and what do they do, and how do they work? The first thing and how they work is that ChatGPT, by definition, is giving you an answer, right? You're asking it something, it's giving you an answer. But in this case, the study mode, they don't just give answers. You can, it essentially guides you through that process. So you ask questions. They also ask questions to assess your knowledge. So that's a really nice thing. So as long, as part of the learning process, part of the conversation, asking questions to assess where you are in that process is super important. And these AI tutors also they break the concept into digestible steps. So rather than giving you the whole thing, you can go step by step by step. So it's like kind of the process of learning. Obviously, you see that in kind of textbooks and how things are taught, where new concepts get introduced, and they kind of get layered on top of each other. They also check the understanding before moving forward. So AI tutors need to be able to check understanding. They need to be able to quiz you to see if you got the information, or be able to kind of, again, test you as part of that. It also, these AI tutors provide hints instead of solutions. So you can ask it, just give me the answer, and you will kind of refuse to do that. So it's providing hints, and that's kind of what a really, really good teacher does. It's kind of guiding you in the right direction rather than kind of sending you to the final destination. And then the last but not least, kind of what AI tutors are and what they do is that they adapt to your learning level. So somebody learning, you know, kind of AI, or how generative AI works, or large language models work, there's a different level that you can teach that at a high school level that versus a college level versus a professional that's already in the space and has been a professional for a long time, and now they're just jumping in. So you take all of these things together and you're like, okay, well, ChatGPT is not really that. Like, I don't see any of these things. And that's why we're going, those are the two, both ChatGPT and also Gemini have introduced these different modes that give you the ability to do that. So ChatGPT's version of this is called study mode, and Gemini's is called guided learning. And mostly we're going to focus on the ChatGPT side, but we're also going to talk about Gemini a little bit. And if we have time at the end, I'm going to introduce another tool, which I've given presentations about before, called NotebookLM. And NotebookLM is a tool that provides you with a lot more um, opportunities to kind of go through that learning process, and it has a lot more things baked in there where you can kind of essentially combine a lot more information and so on and so forth. But we're going to focus on, like I said, ChatGPT study mode today and Gemini guided learning in order for you to for us to get to the essentially this notion of guided learning. All right, so ChatGPT study mode, you go to the tools on ChatGPT and then you can kind of pick that mode. And one of the things that the use cases that you're seeing here is like you can ask it to help you with a problem, with a homework problem. You can give it a picture of a textbook or a picture of something of your homework, and then you can see how it's guiding you through solving that particular problem. So it's guiding you through and it's telling you, okay, here's some of the steps. Can you calculate them and let us know? It also helps with prep as well. So you can tell it to just quiz you, right? Sometimes that's really, really important. And you'll build these quizzes. And that's an interesting part because, when you talk about quizzes, it can be trivia, it can be, you can learn about a subject or you can quiz yourself around a particular area. But I have found that, one of the really cool use cases that we have for ChatGPT, especially the voice mode, is during kind of car rides where, my kids, especially my son Noah, he loves geography, and one of the things that we do is like we do geography trivia, and it's actually a really, really interesting use case for using these AIs, especially the voice AIs in the car, to do trivia on the spot, and they learn about you and they learn about your kids and how it can be really, really interesting on the learning side. So the other part that it goes deeper into a topic. So you can ask ChatGPT study mode to go deeper into a topic, and it will kind of go ahead and kind of explore that a little bit further or a little bit more in terms of specific topics. So we're gonna kind of jump in and kind of take a look at this in just a minute, but I also wanted to kind of showcase kind of some key features here from ChatGPT that we should be looking at, and how you think about it, right? In this case, ChatGPT, it basically transforms from an answer machine into a Socratic tutor, just like we talked about before. And that's what the team at OpenAI has done. They have built the study mode feature in ChatGPT by talking to a lot of educators, by talking to a lot of folks who kind of specialize in teaching and learning, and essentially how should an AI tutor behave and how should information be provided. And they've baked that into the system prompts and essentially the wiring underneath. One of the things that they mention is that study mode is just at the beginning, but they're going to keep advancing it even further as they're betting down on the ChatGPT EDU use cases and education that they're focusing on. So this is just a first iteration as we look at it. But some of the key features that it introduces is this idea of Socratic questioning, right? So it's not just giving you the answers, but it's going through the Socratic questioning. The other part is that it has a step-by-step scaffolding. So what does that mean? It's like it just built, like I said, it builds on top of each other, meaning the questions can build on top of each other, or the knowledge can build on top of each other as well. The notion of evaluations is super important because you want to know what you're learning or what the learner is kind of learning about. So knowledge checks and quizzes are part of that as well. So it can do these checks in real time, or you can ask it to quiz you, and it will kind of go through that process. And then the other part is that it remembers your progress. So this is really important because as you're having different sessions with ChatGPT study mode, it will kind of remember prior sessions, and it will remember kind of where you are in that progress of learning a specific, a specific task in here, or a specific topic, for example. So, and it uses the memory component of ChatGPT, and of course, hopefully you've kind of paying attention to how ChatGPT is evolving into a everything personal assistant and repository of all your information. It's able to retain memory. It's able to kind of pull information from your prior conversations, and it's becoming an indispensable place of all your context and essentially your thinking and your second brain, so to speak. So remembering progress and where you are on certain topics and kind of your goals there, it's super, super important. And the last but not least, it works with uploaded materials as well. So not only can you ask it for a topic based on its information, but you can actually upload materials that you have and you can say, okay, now based on these materials, teach me or guide me through this. And you saw a little bit before where it was actually showing you how, you can upload that homework questions and kind of help me solve that homework through. So super, super important in order to do that. Now, when we look at Gemini from a guided learning, Gemini guided learning, we have it's essentially Google's. This is interactive study partner, but it's also powered by what Google calls LearnML, which is which they have introduced this a year ago. And this is a specialized model that they did around teaching and learning, like how do you learn, very similar to ChatGPT. So in some cases, the Gemini guided learning is probably a little bit more advanced in terms of embedding a lot of that Socratic learning, whereas ChatGPT, the study mode, is a little bit more superficial and it's only on the system prop. There's nothing under model underneath that allows it to do that. Whereas with Google Gemini, that's actually baked into the model itself. So it can do personalized study plans. Those are some of the cool features in there. It can also do multimedia integration, so like images and video and things like that. So you can load those or you can work with those. You can also upload YouTube and because of the interoperability with YouTube, that's really cool that you can kind of point to a YouTube video and say, hey, what did they talk about or explain to me and so on and so forth. It also auto-generates study guides, right? So it'll generate a study guide for you, and it has this notion of flashcards and quizzes. So a little bit more advanced, where the display of information for ChatGPT is a little bit more plain. With Gemini guided learning, there's some more things in there that it can do, like flashcards and quizzes. And of course, it works with your course materials as well. It's just like, we talked about, you can upload stuff in ChatGPT, study guide, you can do the same thing in Gemini as well. So those are the two differences and kind of the key features for each one. And when you think about the differences here, like I mentioned before, with ChatGPT study mode, it's basically a text-focused interface, whereas with Gemini, there's a little bit of multimedia integration in there as well. The ChatGPT has this very strong Socratic dialogue. It remembers your progress. You can toggle on and off easily, so you don't have to be in that mode. You can toggle it on and off. And the last part in here that's free, it's available for free and paid tiers of ChatGPT. So you don't have to have a paid version, which makes it a lot easier for students or for youngsters that are or people that are going in there and they don't have paid accounts. They can also use the study guide. From the Gemini side, the difference is also, again, like I said, multimedia integration. It's got these built-in flashcards, which is pretty cool. And then the LearnML, like specialized models underneath that are powering it. Study plan layouts, it's kind of a nice thing. And what they've done is that they have introduced the Gemini is actually free for Gemini Pro. It's actually free for students for 1 year if you have a .edu account. So this was announced a month ago or so, where you can now go in and have this free. All right. So, as we kind of move forward here, I'm going to jump in very, very quickly and start, start playing around with this a little bit more. So let me see here. Just give me 1 second as as I switch my screen here.
As you transition, artist, there's a couple questions in there in the chat that maybe you'd be able to field. Um,
Yeah, let's jump into the questions for sure.
yeah.
I think
Uh,
that's a good use of our time, and then
yeah.
we can kind of take a look.
Is there a problem with copyright when you upload something?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
So copyright is you can use materials. you can have derivations of that material. You can use it for learning. You can use it to build other things. So there's no copyright as long as you bought that book. And obviously, there's a lot of books that, back in the day, I didn't have enough money, so I used to just download it from torrents and other places. But
Yeah.
yes,
Awesome.
you own it.
Second question, how do you see a teacher supervising this study mode to help students, or is study mode presented as an autonomous partner?
Right. So there is no teacher control right now, and this is where you know, it's basically built as a personal, in your personal ChatGPT account. So there is no ability for a teacher to come in. But I'm assuming at some point in the future, OpenAI will kind of build a lot of those components in there, or the enterprise types features for schools. I wouldn't be surprised. There's probably a lot of startups that are kind of trying down this road as well, where they're building this AI agents, and specifically teacher assistants that the teacher can guide them through. But right now, it's just personalized to the one account. Okay.
Oh, sorry. If you upload homework, does it violate the teacher's copyright if they created the questions?
It does not, no.
No.
So again, like you can upload as many things as you want. If you have the material, you can upload it and you can ask it questions. You own it, you get it. It's not using that data to train, guys. So it's this is like it's basically using it for like you're using it for your own. It's like saying, if I upload something to my Google Drive, does it violate copyright? And the answer is no, it does not violate copyright. It's you're using it for your, to derive additional work. You purchased a textbook. Your teacher gave you permission to actually read and use that material. So it's not, there's no copyright. It's
Awesome.
very,
Yeah.
very, very hard. So don't worry about copyright. That's a rule of thumb. Don't worry about copyright. It's very hard to prove the work and the things that you're doing are not do not have damages on the authors of these materials. So it's copyright is the last thing you should be thinking about when using this tools right now.
Awesome. Beautiful. All right. You can go in and
All
start
right.
going, giving some use
So
cases.
yeah. So when we go into ChatGPT, there's two things in here. I move to auto, and the first thing that you're going to notice is when you click the little plus button, you now have the ability to go into it's hidden because there's so many options in here, but you get more and then you have study and learn. So this is called study mode. So it gives you a couple of things in here and explain a topic to me. And it's basically going to ask you, okay, what kind of topic do you want to explain? Or we can just go ahead and ask it, explain artificial intelligence to me, right? So we can do one of those two things. So let's say um, artificial intelligence. So we can go ahead and kind of explore this topic. Um, but let's take a look at it might be taking a little bit longer as we're doing this live right now. If you were part of my session yesterday about GPT-5, GPT-5 has these different modes of how long it thinks through when it provides you the answer. But here we go. So saying, okay, good. That's a big one. Let's narrow it down. So it's basically telling me, it's guiding me and saying, okay, what do you want to know about this? Um, you know, I want to know about the let's say technical implementations of LLMs. So I'm really curious about that, and I want to understand a little bit more about how large language models are built and technical implementations of those large language models. Now, of course, this is something that you are like, well, gee, artists, I don't know if that's something that we want to, talk about during this talk because we don't have a lot of time. But so excellent. So that's a serious and worthwhile topic. Before we go deeper, have you studied any computer science? So here is the ability for the model now, or ChatGPT, to kind of gauge where you are as part of that. So it's not going to go ahead. If I were to do this in regular ChatGPT with a study mode, it will just spill out a whole bunch of stuff for me and be eager to. But in this case, it understands it's like, okay, I need to assess where the learner is as part of this process. And then what do you want to know about? Like, do you know any math? Have you learned any math before? So I can say, no, I'm a beginner. So we can go ahead and do that. But again, it's going to go ahead and kind of keep on and identify exactly to figure out where to start, right? What's the, you know, and here we go with that scaffolding as well. So it's saying, let's build up the background level. Here's what how we'll tackle it. Let's understand the big idea, the basic pieces, how it's trained, peak, and so on and so forth. So I can ask it, can you build a study guide? So we can go ahead and do that as well. So we're only going to spend a few minutes in here, but let's take a look now at Gemini as well. So we're going to take a look at Gemini, and we have the same thing in Gemini, but rather than me going down with a prompt that that I might not necessarily have, what we're going to do, or what you can do, is you can do more of a hands-on. So essentially, you can go ahead and say, I'm a college student. Can you help me understand how backpropagation work in neural networks? Now you're like, oh, geez, and more AI stuff. And how the hell do. Okay, so we can go ahead and can ask for homework help. It's like, I'm stuck with the calculus problem about finding the derivative of X and Y, of this function. Can you help me solve it? You might be saying, oh man, it's like math. I left that in high school. I don't even want to touch it anymore. Okay, so here's another one. Have an exam on World War II, causes uh, can you quiz me on it? So here's another one that you can do exam prep. Okay, fine. You don't really care about history. Here's another one. I need to write a Python function that reverses a string. Can you help me how to do this? So coding is something that a lot of people are vibe coding nowadays, and you can, if you want to learn more about it, like this is a really great way to do that. But what I've done is, I've gone ahead and kind of pulled some more practical examples in here, and more like business type examples. And there is one, there's a whole bunch of them, but so one of them can be learning a business framework, or I'm going to kind of go over a few examples in here, but learning a business framework. For example, I work in marketing and I need to improve my copywriting. Can you help me learn the AIDA framework? So in this case, AIDA, attention, interest, desire. And we're going to go in here on Gemini, and we're actually going to go to tools, and we're going to go to guided learning. So let's do that. This is now a framework that's in copywriting, AIDA, which stands for attention, interest. Here we go. So it's great goal. The AIDA framework is the cornerstone of persuasive copywriting and will definitely help with the structure. So to start improving your copy, where should we focus? So again, it's trying to figure out where we are as part of that process. Break down the 4 stages and copywriting goals for each, analyze a real world example, or start writing a draft. So I would like to understand, to break it down, break it down with examples. Uh, I know. Okay, so let's do that, right? And we can go ahead and it will go through and kind of give us that example, kind of break it down for us. So um, here we go. So you got it. Okay, so the first stage is attention. So the goal here is to simplify. So stop the reader in their tracks. So essentially, uh, stop the reader in their tracks. It's giving us some very clear understanding of what that is. For example, if you were selling an online course to help people improve their speaking skills, an attention-grabbing headline might be public speaking fear costs Americans $3 billion a year. Is it costing you? In a crowded inbox, um, what's the most effective technique you could use to grab a potential customer attention with a single compelling line? Okay. Does that that sounds like a all right. Um, There's a little background noise. If you can guys give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if you hear it or not. I'll need to pause for a second to fix it, but we only have a couple more minutes here. So what
I
we're
think you're
going to
good.
do, yeah,
I think you're
okay.
good. I don't
So
hear it on my end.
what we're going to do is, like, since we have a couple more minutes, the last thing that I wanted to kind of bring up is that there is a whole bunch of other exercises or things that you can do with this guided learning. You can improve work skills, for example. So you can say, "Hey, I need to work on my Excel pivot tables. Help me learn through that." You can do things like practice difficult conversations. I need to give constructive feedback to a team member about missed deadlines. Like, can you help me prepare for this conversation? And it will walk you through that process, and it will teach you, the process. So again, large language models and these chatbots, originally we've been using them as just tools to get answers, but now they can help us. They can teach us things, right? And this methodology of teaching is a little bit different. Another one can be developing leadership skills, right? I'm a new manager and struggling with delegation. Can you help me learn how to delegate effectively? Another one can be mastering presentation skills. It's like improving business writing, learning negotiation skills. The negotiation skills is an important one because it's something that everybody should learn how to do if you're in a business setting. It's not just about like getting a salary raise, but you can work with it to essentially negotiate your salary in a new role. It says, "Can you teach me the principles of win-win negotiation? Help me practice." How develop strategic thinking. So let's say I need to create a competitive analysis for my industry. Can you teach me Porter's five forces, for example, and help me apply it? And again, like, we can go back and forth around a lot of these different use cases. It can be really, sometimes you can even ask ChatGPT to come up with some use cases of how you can use this guided learning as well in a particular area, or how you can get your teams specifically to get to that place where you're giving them examples and you're driving them through this. But it's an amazing tool. We did not get enough time to go into NotebookLM. I overestimate how fast this 30 minutes goes.